Welcome to Motherhood and ADHD. I'm your friend, Patricia Sen. My mission is to be a lighthouse for mothers with ADHD, helping you find your path to success by learning to appreciate your ADHD as an asset. I'm seeking to change the paradigm that ADHD means your life is doomed to be a hot mess. So I'm sharing strategies and encouraging you in your pursuit of happiness to love who you are every day of your ADHD life. Hey there, successful mama. It's your friend Patricia. So today I'm going to be talking about a sensitive topic. So if you want to pop in some headphones, this would be a good time to do it. So first up, if you haven't, please subscribe to the podcast. That makes a huge difference in where the show shows up in the search for any kind of rating apps like iTunes and Stitcher and all that. And also, please leave a review. I would love to know what you think, if there's something you want me to talk about, any of the things. Like, it just makes a huge difference for me to know that somebody's out there listening and appreciating what I'm doing and that I'm not just talking to no one. So please send me some love. Okay, so today's episode actually came out of a conversation with my little sister. And when I say little, she's in her 30s. She's just my little sister, younger than me. I am the oldest, if you hadn't guessed by my bossy personality. What are you gonna do? But so she called me because her best friend's mom is not doing well. She just was diagnosed with a terminal form of brain cancer, and they gave her less than a year to live. Now, if you're not familiar with my background, my mom passed away when I was 22, and my littlest sister, I'm one of 5 kids, she was 16 at the time. So we've been through some tough stuff together as a family. And my sister was just struggling because she felt like I should know what to say. Like, my mom passed away from gallbladder cancer. So it's like, I feel like I should know what to tell her. And I don't know what to do. We had a good 45-minute conversation, which I'm surprised happened because the kids, she has my nephew who's about to turn 2, and my kids were home at the time. And oh my goodness, somehow God had favor on us and let us get through this conversation. And so, we were both definitely in tears at some point in the conversation because it's a trigger. Even after 15 years of my mom not being here, like, it's still hard to lose your mom. I still think about her every day. And these kind of conversations, and I'm already tearing up, so I'm sure I'll be a little bit emotional in this episode, but there are so many times where I wish she was here to talk to and give advice. My sister and I were laughing because she had called my dad to talk to him about it. And we were just laughing because, like, my dad's an engineer. And if you're familiar with the Enneagram, I'm pretty sure he's a 5. So it's like emotional support is not his jam. Like, if you need help on finances or, a problem with your car, like, dad's the guy to call. But like emotional support, not so much. And so she was like, oh my goodness, Dad, that was not really helpful because all of his advice is like super logical. And while that is needed, when you're talking about your best friend and her mom passing away, like that's tough stuff. So we started brainstorming ideas of how to help her friend. Like, halfway through we were talking, she was like, I really should write these down. These are good ideas. And I'm like, can you send it to me? And she's like, oh yeah, you got to do a podcast episode on this. And so here we are. Here's what we came up with, and hopefully it helps you support someone, or if you're going through this, I'm so sorry, like, so many hugs. It is so hard to lose a parent or anyone that's really important to you. It's a huge hole that you find in your heart. And the advice I always give is, look, you have this giant hole where this person was, and it feels so empty and overwhelming right now. But over time, it starts to fill back up. You refill it by remembering all the good things and appreciating who they are and what they did do for you, even if there is like hurt and frustration, and maybe if it wasn't the best relationship. Thankfully, over time, the hurt starts to fade, and you just fill up that hole with the good things that you had out of that relationship. And it just takes time. But it's just hard. And so my first recommendation is just sit in the sadness with your friend. You don't have to find a silver lining. You don't have to like be super positive. Just agree with them. Like, this sucks. This is awful. It's hard. Just let it be and just be there with them in that hurt. Don't tell any nervous stories because you feel like you have to say something. Like, I can't tell you how many people, when my mom was really sick and in the hospital, they would be like, oh yeah, my dad had cancer. He died, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I don't want to hear how people die from cancer. Like, I'm already well in that. Like, that's not helpful. You don't have to fill the space with words. You don't have to fill the space with stories. You don't have to fill the space with encouragement. You just say, hey, I'm here when you're ready, and I'm just going to sit in it with you. And that's really hard to do because I think as a culture, we just don't sit with our feelings. But the thing is, if we sit with them, eventually they go away. It's when we try to stuff them away and ignore them that things fester and cause problems. So just try to sit there with them as much as you can. If you don't have the mental capacity to do that, like, just be honest and don't. But really, that's what they need right now, is someone to just sit with them in the yuck and be there. And then at some point, they'll be ready to start processing the uncomfortable. It's not going to be right away, but then you can be there with them to start moving through the part where like shock has worn off and knowing it's time to start to like move through the uncomfortable. So don't push anyone, like don't push your friend, don't push their friend to talk with, their important person that's passing away, that's sick, that's not doing well, that's dying. You don't have to push anybody to do anything. It is a scary topic. People don't like talking about dying. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with it. And the fact is, we are all going to die at some point. Nobody gets to live forever. But looking that in the face is really hard, especially when it's pulled in right away. And just know that everyone deals with grief differently. It's a very strange catalyst. People who are dying deal with it differently. The people around them deal with it differently. Like, some people really sit in the mourning and the grief. Some people are like, all right, I only got a few months to live. Let's live it up. I mean, everyone's going to deal with it differently. So just make space for that. And then remember that the logistics are going to be really overwhelming for them because all of a sudden they're trying to figure out, like, I'm coming from the perspective of knowing, like, my sister's friend knows her mom is going to pass away soon, but not right away. Like, dealing with sudden death is a little bit different of a process than knowing it's coming, even though we all know it's coming. It's just harder when it's like in your face of like, no, for sure it's coming like soon, guys. But just all those logistics are a lot. Like, they start thinking about like, well, are they going to talk to them? I'll just keep referring to like the friend and the mom just to make it simple. But like, obviously this applies to a lot of different relationships. But like, she's going to have to figure out like what kind of funeral service or memorial service her mom wants. It's complicated. Like, if there is if your parent is married, what about the surviving spouse? Are they going to be okay on their own? Depending on what age they are. If you have lots of siblings, you get everybody's feelings in the mix. Does that person have like a will or power of attorney in place? Like, there's just a lot of logistics and feelings that feel very overwhelming when you're trying to think about all of this. So just know that that's going to be a lot for your friend to process, or if you're going through it, for you to process. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to know the answers. You can just sit with them and depending on their personality, they might want to start making a list of things they need to accomplish. And other people are like, I don't want to talk about it at all. So just know that either one is okay. But what we really wanted to accomplish, my sister and I were thinking about ways that she could enjoy the time that she has with her mom, the amount of time that she has left, and for that to be an enjoyable year coming up. So her mom's been given about 12 months to live, but like, what does that look like? Does that mean like she has like 3 good months ahead of her and then she has 9 months of being hospitalized? Because you want to take that into consideration of, if you want to spend really great time with this person, how much time do you have where they're still in good shape, getting around, doing things, as opposed to being in the hospital, frail, needing to stay away from germs, etc. So, you want to be sensitive to that as well, knowing how that's going to unfold. And this is one of the struggles that my sister was having with, she wanted to be like, well, you can still do all this cool stuff with your mom, but like, here we are in this quarantine time and they can't go anywhere. So we also were trying to brainstorm some things of like what we could do, considering that we are in quarantine times here. So I have 4 main ideas of ways that you can hang out together and build memories and remember that person after they're gone. So 1 is spend quality time together, but also don't force it. When you have a parent that is very sick and needs a lot of care, it can be very overwhelming. It's very taxing on the caregivers, the family. And so don't feel like this should be a chore. Like if you're someone who spends, time with your parents once or twice a week, maybe you want to increase that some. That doesn't mean you have to be there every day. If you see your family once a month and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I have to like cram in all this time with my parent, like they're dying, and so I've got to be there all the time. That's not a sustainable way to live for you or for them. And I know you're thinking, well, I don't have that much time. It's like, that's true, but you don't want to make the last few months miserable. You still have to continue your functions of life, get things done. You are going to modify the way you do things and rearrange and add to spend quality time with them, but it shouldn't be to the point where you're super burdened and uncomfortable because you have to take care of you as well. So if you think like, well, I'm just going to spend every day that I can with my mom because she only has 3 months left. It's like, well, you know what? She might have 3 months left. She might only have 1 month left. She might live for another 10 years. You don't know. And so that needs to be something that you can be okay with, knowing that you don't know the timeline. Like we don't ever know when death is coming. And so make sure that you don't go overboard thinking you have to spend every waking moment with this person. Like that person who's passing away may not want to spend every waking moment with you. They might want to just sit peacefully in the backyard and appreciate nature. Like that's okay too. So on that note, talk to the person who's passing away about like, what do they want to be remembered for? What do they still want to do? What kind of memories do they want to have? How do they want to spend these last few months? Like if they can, have your friend have that kind of conversation with their mom so that they can find out, like, does your mom want to do a bunch of volunteer work and feel like she left this earth helping others? Then let's make that happen. If they want to be remembered for their family, maybe they want to do a bunch of stuff just with family or whatever that is, but make sure that you're considering their wishes as well as you're making these plans. Like, what kind of memories do they want to create with you? It shouldn't be all 100% you or 100% them. It should be this mix of both people enjoying this time together as it's coming to an end. Thirdly, I would ask my friend, like in 5 years, what will you have wished you had done with your mom while she was still here? It's hard when you're in the place of grief, like everything's just so overwhelming, to kind of pull yourself out and like bird's eye view look down and be like, this is what I would look at in the big picture. So like do that kind of stuff. If you think about what were your best memories of when you were a kid, like things you did as a family, like when you were 7, maybe every summer you went and got, as a special treat, ice cream from a certain place. So go grab ice cream from that special place. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like you were 7. And it doesn't have to be this like Pinterest fancy memory making. Like it should be what's important to you and your family, not what somebody else thinks is important or what somebody else think is a valuable tradition. Like it's not about like looking back and being like, oh, you're just eating like frozen ice pops. Like it's not about that. Like it's about you building the memories that makes you guys happy in your family. So don't Pinterest it up here. Just do what's important in your family. The things that you loved as a kid. If you have any holidays coming up, the traditions that you loved doing when you were little, focus on those things. And then my last recommendation is to just document. My mom passed away in the days before it was really popular to have like a video camera. So I don't really have any videos of my mom. Actually, I don't think we have any videos of my mom. And also my mom didn't like getting her picture taken. And so we don't have a ton of photos of my mom either. And that was one thing we realized in her memorial service was that my mom was always taking the pictures. She was never in the pictures. This is, before we had cameras with time release buttons and all that. And so as a side note, like that's one of the reasons I get family pictures done pretty much twice a year, I would say, like maybe even 3 times a year, because I want my kids to have pictures of me all through growing up. Like this is where I'm going to get sad. But I want them to have that. I want them to be able to look back and see their mom smiling. And, I am lucky. Like I've really, well, who knows, maybe my husband just listens to me sometimes, but I'm always asking him, like, please take pictures of me with the kids. Like, I want them to see me too, not just me taking all the pictures. And so, if you've never had family pictures taken, maybe you get, official family pictures taken, like with a real photographer. If you can't afford that, or obviously in quarantine times, that's not an option, can you set up, your camera and take some in the house? Like, it doesn't have to be something fancy. Just take pictures together. Maybe if your friend's mom is super involved with the grandkids, like get pictures taken with each grandkid. And then another idea is to make the photo album with that person. So like them picking out the pictures and creating a book so that they have the legacy that they want of their family. And then do some videos or recordings. And there are some great books on Amazon where somebody can record the actual story in their voice. So like you can have grandma like tape. Oh my goodness, I just totally dated myself. She can record herself reading a favorite book to a grandkid so that they can have her voice throughout the years. You can take videos of them like telling family stories or talking about what your friend was like as a baby. That's one thing that I wish I could go back and ask my mom. Like, I know some stories, but like, what was I like as a kid? Or like, what was she like as a kid? And what was it like growing up in the 50s? And, just telling those stories about your past and like maybe document your family tree so that you have that family history written down and like who was who and, who had aunts, who so-and-so's aunts and uncles or whatever. And then the last one is, if they want to leave any messages for the future, like if obviously you can write them down, handwritten notes, but you can also do videos or recordings of like, if your friend isn't married yet, does their mom want to record like a wedding toast for their wedding day or advice for her grandkids on graduation? Or, it's hard to look, hindsight's 2020. Like I know the ways that I miss my mom. Like I miss having her there at all the important moments that you would turn to your mom and ask for advice. Things like the big things like wedding days, but also just the little things of like when I'm frustrated at my kids and how do I deal with that? What did you do? Like, I'm really lucky I had an awesome mom and all she wanted to do was be a mom. That was like her life goal. And she was such a great mom. And somehow she wrangled 5 kids. And there's so many times I look at my 2 and I'm like, what on earth? Like, how did my mom do this with 5 kids? I can barely keep up with 2. I want to ask her just the little things of like, what do I do when one of them's frustrating me or, struggles? It's the big things and the little things that I miss. And so one of the things that makes me the most sad is sometimes I can't remember the sound of her voice. And the only thing I have with her voice is an old answering machine message that my brother thankfully recorded. But it's literally just her being like, hey, I'm just calling to say hi. But something so simple holds so much weight. Obviously, you don't know that at the time, what you're going to miss in the future. But I think you could go to somebody who is older and ask for that wise advice and say, what are you really glad you had your parent there for? What kinds of things do you wish you knew? And you were able to go to your parent for advice and get some of that. So, sweet mama, when your friend is going through a really hard time, or if you are going through this right now, I get it. It's hard. I wish that I had really great words to make you feel better, but I'm going to follow my own advice and say, I will sit here with you in the yuck and tell you, wow, this sucks, but I'm here for you and I will help you get through it. So I hope that my tearful podcast can give you some encouragement on how to help a friend deal with really hard times or for you to deal with it. And just know it's okay to just give them a big hug, or in this Corona time, a virtual big hug, and just sit with them and give them space to just be sad, because it will get better with time. It doesn't take away the hurt. It just kind of dulls it, and you're able to focus instead on the good things and the memories, and it does get better. It's not necessarily easier, but it's more doable. And you will get through it, and you will be stronger. And one day you can reach your hand out and offer help to someone else who is struggling with the same thing or something similar, and offer that hand and say, hey, I got you.
grab my hand and I'll help pull you up and we'll get through it together. So, sweet mama, have a wonderful week. I am praying for all of you so much in this stressful time. And I hope you're surviving this quarantine, and hopefully we'll be out and about soon. Okay. Have a great week, Successful Mama.
Thank you for listening to Motherhood in ADHD. For more resources, head over to our website, www.motherhoodinadhd.com.